Hey guys, this is Danny.
And this is Jenny Fuentes.
And this is Dear Husband, Dear Wife.
Yes, it is a podcast that is about an imperfect couple keeping it 100% real, where we talk about dating, marriage, and sex.
Yeah, all of it.
Yes, it is unscripted
and
it's centered in the truth.
Yes, we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the messed up, the shady, the pretty things, the beautiful things, all of it.
All
jam-packed.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in, and
we
get
hope,
ready.
Yeah.
We hope what?
I don't know. We just hope. We just hope.
We just hope that you will enjoy the episode that you're about to hear.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Enjoy.
Hello, this is Danny Fuentes. And
this is Jenny Fuentes.
And this is Dear Husband, Dear Wife. And a special guest, Senor Brandon
Wong.
Nice.
What's up?
What's up?
Hi, guys. Today we are so excited to have Brandon Wong, a friend of ours that we met,
that we met years ago and only saw
a long time ago.
Yes. He is an amazing father of a young baby called Avery, an amazing husband to his wife, Jess, and he has been serving for 8 years as a youth pastor in a church in Santa Barbara. We are really stoked to have Brandon be our guest. And Brandon, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be with you guys.
All right. So we have invited Brandon to speak on behalf of young married couples who are also young parents, and especially from a male's perspective point of view. We just really wanted to just start a conversation, if that's possible. And if you hear any background, again, we just want to make a little memo. If you hear any background, remember,
we live in San Francisco.
Yep.
We rent.
Yep.
We don't own.
Nope,
so we
it's
don't
expensive.
have the luxury to tell people to shut up.
Yep. So just letting you know, please bear with us. So thank you, Brandon, for being here. All right, Brandon, do you want to tell us anything else about yourself before we get started?
Yeah, totally. I am currently a resident in Santa Barbara, and I've been working at a church for the last 8 years. I'm really funny about my positioning as a parent right now. I actually take on most of the day responsibilities with my son Harvey, and it's kind of like this duo. Like I'm like bivocational right now, where I'm like stay-at-home dad and also being a youth pastor throughout the day and night. So it's kind of this really interesting dance that I'm doing. But here I am, and I'm stoked to be able to share all the my experience so far as a parent.
Nice.
Now having been a parent for 8 months now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, we do have a couple of questions that we wanted to ask you. And obviously this is free flowing. So as all of our listeners know, this is an unfiltered, unscripted conversation. And so you can totally answer your question however you want. But our first question that we want to ask is based on what you just shared right now. Is as you have been a parent for an 8-month now, what has been some of the highs and the lows for you, knowing that you have been a father and bivocational? What has been part of the interesting and joyful parts of parenting as a new parent?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And before I even start answering, I just want to say to all the listeners, this is my personal experience. You may resonate. You may just think that, wow, this guy's absolutely crazy. Take what you can. And I hope that it all just helps either reassure you that you're not crazy as a parent or someone who's thinking about kids, or you can also just dismiss what I just said. So going back to the question, highs and lows of being a parent of an 8-month-old now, I would say the absolute highs are watching our son grow. It's really funny because we'll kind of look back on our photos when Harvey was born, and he's this like small little baby, just like immobile, just just sleeping. And then fast forward to now, our son is crawling, he is climbing on things, he's standing up, and he's at this really interesting phase in his life where his legs cannot unlock. So he doesn't know how to get down after he stands on something. So his only way down is just to fall backwards,
Oh,
and sometimes on his head. And
oh,
as a parent, you're kind of like, you got to be there to catch him. And also, when is he going to learn that that's probably not like the best way to do it? It's this hysterical comedy of a parent that I get to experience. And those are some of the highs, just like laughing, watching our son just grow in different developmental stages, being introduced to solids, seeing how he can recognize people like our close friends or right now, he's like really attached to mom, and I'll get to the lows because they're all of these highs come with lows. But it's just really cool to see like our son just become like, oh my gosh, like you're a functioning human. It's kind of crazy
yeah,
because like 8 months ago, we had no idea that this would be what it is, and it is just a joy. I think there's so much that points to God's creation when you get to raise a little one such as our son. So a lot of highs watching him do all these things. For the lows, and it can be a high too. So you can kind of really take it from high to low. There's no in between, I don't think. But I would say a low is that being a parent is it's all of your life
mm,
being given away to your child. And that's actually like really amazing thing. But oftentimes, like when you're working or when you're trying to find self-care time or when you're trying to balance your own personal relationship with your spouse, the all-consuming nature of your child can unfortunately just take over everything. And where you used to have this routine, unfortunately, just totally gets smashed, and you are just focusing on caring for your baby. And
wow.
I think that I've had a lot of moments where I'm like, wow, I'm kind of grieving here. I'm
Mm,
grieving like the loss of what life was like before having a kid. And I think grief always comes with change, and that's just a normal part of our human process. And we all experience grief when we move, when we start a new job, when we um, have different things that are just integrated into our life that is not the normal. And I think it's a healthy thing, but being a parent to an 8-month-old is all consuming. And
and you're a time parent, right? And,
what?
and you're also a first time parent.
And I'm a first time parent. So it's like everything's new. It's all kind of like it feels like this fire hose that just never shuts off. And at a certain point you kind of get used to it. And then you think that you got it. And then it changes all again the next day. So I would say like not even the role all consuming is a low, but I think that just like day after day after day, it can kind of start wearing and tearing on like who you are as a person. And I think that that's just like, oh my gosh, I have so much respect for all single parents. My mom was a single mom, and I'm like, so much respect for all single parents out there. And also like people who have twins. I'm like,
Wow.
I can barely take care of one kid. I can't imagine Harvey having like a sibling at the same age
Yeah.
and like just trying to figure out how in the world like to parent two of them. So I think that like is definitely like been a challenge. And I think that another area that I consider like, wow, this is kind of these low moments, but you can also kind of think of them as like these really cool growth moments as well as I think being a parent really brings out things you've not processed yet.
Mm,
For me, like when my son is having like just these moments where you cannot soothe him. He's just crying uncontrollably. It really makes you like it makes everyone kind of respond in a different way. And I've realized that like me growing up, my parents really didn't like the like crying baby. Like it was more like, please, everyone, like there's order in the house, no crying. And I think that like when my son started crying uncontrollably, I think it made me think all the way back to when I was growing up. And it actually made me feel angry, not at my son for crying, but more so me having to go through that with my family. And it's really interesting because I've realized nothing has to do with my son, like crying, like all those things, those are normal responses of a baby. But more so, a lot of these like reactionary things has to do with me and the areas in which I have not processed yet or have not healed from. So I feel like, geez, like as someone who's in their 30s, who's done a lot of like work with therapists and kind of in my own interpersonal life, like to have my son bring out even more is like, oh my gosh, this is so much
Wow.
emotional work. And
Wow.
also on top of that, you're just like all hands on deck with your child. So for me, gosh, like there's so many highs and then there's so many lows. And I feel like sometimes there's no in between. It's either high or low.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa. Like that's a lot.
That's
I mean, thank you
Gee,
for
should we just end it there?
yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Thank you guys for listening. Those of you who have kids, good luck. Those
yeah,
without kids,
I've got a great number for a therapist. If you need it, just reach out to me. I'll send it. I'll send
50%
you a
discount
rec.
on the rest of you.
Yeah, you can use the code Wong at. Just kidding.
No, but this is actually really good. I wanna quote what you said. Like you're in a season also of like grieving, right? Kind of becoming a parent. You're grieving also certain aspects of your marriage. And can you, for context, can you let us know how long you've been married for?
Yeah. This coming August, August 15th is our wedding anniversary, and this August will be Jess and I will be married for 3 years.
Okay, so
So I would say like we're on the younger side of
yeah.
being married. Yeah.
Okay, so I love that because a lot of the times when we work with couples, because we've done like premarital counseling and whatnot, we've mentored couples and whatnot. A big question is like when should we have kids? Obviously, we can't speak into that because we don't have kids of our own, and it's been so hard. Like our story is a whole different other story of like having kids and infertility and whatnot. And so we share that with our couples. But in your case, like being a young married father, also like recently married, I would say recently married, also young. I would say I would consider you young, and being a father now. I want to know, like, or we want to know, how has your marriage with your wife changed? And what are some of the positive things that you've seen come out of the two of you, both you and Jess? And what are some of the complicated or hard things, or like just like the hard conversations you've had to had during the season, especially paying attention to like that 3 year, you guys are just recently married. So like having a baby and whatnot. First of all, I kind of want to ask, and I don't know if this is
What
TMI.
possessed you to
No,
have babies
you're going where I'm
so
going.
early
That's what I was. I
in
was
your
gonna.
marriage?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Oh
That's the
my
question I was
gosh.
to
Was
ask
it
you.
just the nature of your bodies and you couldn't withhold your love and you just had to tackle each other into the bedroom and take care of business?
No. But
Oh my gosh.
that's the question I wanted to ask you first. Like, was this planned? Was this something that you guys wanted to do within your first 3 years of marriage, or was it something that it just happened? And the Lord blessed you
Yeah.
with Harvey.
Yeah,
Harvey
that's a really good. Sorry, Danny, go ahead.
Harvey Dent. Your kid's name is Harvey Dent.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Jess and I, um, Harvey was a planned baby, planned pregnancy, and we definitely, I think more so me than Jess, we both wanted to become parents, but for me, I've always just had this really deep longing to become a parent.
Okay.
So I think that, yeah, it was, I don't know if there was like this really big like aha moment, let's do this. But I know that Jess and I, we've been talking for a little while about like becoming parents, and we just went for it, and here we are. Yeah, there wasn't any like divine like clouds opening up and saying like it's time to become parents, but instead like I think that's just something that we really both we've wanted for each other, and here we are.
I
Yeah.
love, I love that. So
Nice.
now that you've given us that context, it was you guys wanted to be
Young
young
parents.
parents within early on in your marriage. How has your marriage changed in this season? Now that you are about to enter your 3 year marriage, are there, I don't want to say ever regrets because a child is not a regret, and I know that. And I think, if anything, are there any changes, is the perfect word. Like, are there any changes and shifts that you have made in your marriage or compromises that you've made? I love that word, like compromises that you have made now. And you alluded a little bit to the grieving process. And what are some of those things that you're grieving and whatnot?
Yeah. So I think that becoming parents definitely changed our marriage in a couple of different aspects. The first one, it's like definitely strengthened our marriage because we get to rely on each other when one of us needs to like just tap out.
I love that.
One of us is just like absolutely gassed, and like the other one's like, okay, I've got something in me, and so there's just this beautiful like reliance on your spouse when you have a kid, especially your first one. I've loved watching my wife become a mom. I think
Oh,
that there's like this really special like quality, like there's so many different qualities that kind of come out when you take on something new, such as becoming a parent. I think with going back to like the grieving process, like with all things new, you're going to grieve, but also there's this really cool moment of seeing and exploring what's new and kind of taking that all in. So I think that's life. It's like grieving and kind of like experiencing the newness of what's ahead. And in this stage, Jess and I have really gotten to see one another become parents, and we've gotten to learn more and more about each other through that. And it's really cool to process with Jess, like, gosh, why was I so angry when Harvey was crying so much? Well, I think it's because of like these areas in my family's past that I never even thought about would be something that I'd ever consider again. But having my wife there with me to have these honest and like vulnerable conversations about becoming new parents, oh my gosh, like
mm,
that has just strengthened us. We've gotten to learn more about each other, and it also allows for more grace to happen as we parent. Um, there's no, I don't know if there's other parents out there that'll agree with me, but there's no book, there's no podcast, there's no nothing that could ever prepare you for your specific child and parenting your child. Like there can be as much like help and like comfort out there, but like there's no guidebook.
mm,
So to do it with my wife in this capacity, we try to be as gracious towards one another and saying, we've never done this before. We
so
are not professionals at 8 months and whatever day this is. Like we have no idea what we're doing. But I think the humility in that and like the grace that we give each other, that's what keeps our marriage like going, and it's fun, and oftentimes it's not these laughable moments, but it's more like reliance. And I think that that is like this really cool thing that I get to do with my wife. And seeing her be a mom, she blows me out of the water. It's not a comparison thing, but just like she's so good at being a mom or being a parent to Harvey that I'm just like, wow, this is inspirational because I am not. I'm like a lot shorter with him. Sorry, Harvey, if you listen to this in the
yeah.
future.
No, I love that. I love that. How have you been intentional in being a husband to your wife and not just how could I say it? I think it's like you're in the roles of parent, right? And like, so how have you seen your role as a husband also change in your marriage? Has it changed at all? I mean, it's a question I'm asking, I guess.
Yeah.
And how has her role as a wife also changed? Because I know, like you said, priorities kind of shift when you have a baby, right? Like, it's no longer just about the two of you guys, but it's also now about parenting. It's about Harvey. It's about your son or your kids, however it is in the season. So how do you find the balance between making time for what's, you know, Harvey time, and how do you find a balance, or have you found a balance yet when it comes to like you and Jess, and just you and Jess, and what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question, and just to be really honest, Jess and I are still trying to figure that out.
I love that.
Um,
Yeah.
it is again, it's like going back to my earlier um, sharing earlier. It's being a parent of an 8-month old who's just all over the place and everywhere. It's all consuming,
Mm,
and with that, like a lot of our energy is put into like our son.
mm-hmm.
And when Jess or when Jess is off work, I kind of pass Harvey off to her so that I can prep for youth groups, and then I leave. So it, I think that our marriage has definitely changed over this last 8 months because we've just been all hands on deck with our son. It's kind of like these trade-offs, and with that, unfortunately, comes with the idea that like our intentional time, just me and Jess, it's not as what it used to be.
Mm,
And that's probably like one of the hardships that we're facing is the connection time is really it's really hard to come by because after full days of work or after I come home from a youth group around 8:30, 8:45, we feel like zombies.
I was gonna
We
say,
we're like on the couch and just going, "Oh my gosh, what happened today? Like what was that?" And all we can do is just laugh. We could just that I guess that's like our moment of connection is just being like,
mm,
"What was that? That was insane." Or that was like how are we gonna do this?
yeah.
You know? And I think like a lot of it is on us. Everyone we're given choices and we can prioritize a lot of things if we want to. And I think that's probably like the hardship for us right now. It's like it's easy for us to at the end of the day to just be like and just melt on the couch and just turn on Netflix and just like or watch Ted Lasso or watch something, you know? Um, and maybe calling myself out a little bit more, I tend to go to like dead zombie mode, like where it's just easier just to kind of shut my brain off instead of trying to connect. And that's kind of where we're still trying to navigate. It's like, how do we find that time? Like, where is that time in our week that we can be intentional with one another, check in, have like even a moment of intimacy?
Mhm.
Um, where does that fall? And it's really hard because each week is so different that we yeah we've kind of struggled in that area and but I think going back to the positives, we have so much grace for one another. We have so much grace for our reality. We just say like, oh my gosh, like we're in a season and it's not gonna be forever, but in this season we're kind of we're just trying to make it through
Yeah.
in the best way possible. Like we love being parents, but it's the reality is it's just holy Lord, like it's just a lot. And I think grace is the thing that really has kept us like strong, or at least more accepting of our current state of life in our marriage. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. I think as couples, we forget to practice grace no matter what season we are in. Um, and you'll learn this as you get into the older years of marriage. You morph certain, like, it's like a butterfly, kind of go through the cycle of an entire butterfly, like you end up morphing every like 4 to 5 years, 6 years. You become someone different, whether you have kids or not. You're changing, your mindset,
Yeah.
you're growing. And so I love that you're in a season right now where grace is a gift that you guys are experiencing, and you're walking in it. You're just literally together embracing it and walking in that season of grace for each other and with each other. So I appreciate you sharing that, because I know it's hard. I mean, I know, well, personally, I can't say I know that it's hard because I don't have kids, but I have heard, that's what I want to say. I have heard that it is hard, especially within your first child, like finding that balance, because you're first time parents, and you're learning how to balance parenting versus marriage. And is it even a parenting versus a marriage thing, right? Like or do they both come together and they merge as a beautiful new thing, right? So, and I think you made a point. There is no book that's ever going to prepare you for parenting. In the same way, I don't think there is a book that's going to prepare you for marriage. But what I do know is, like, no marriage is a cookie cutter, no parenting is a cookie cutter, no child is a cookie cutter. We're not cookie cutter people. But at the end of the day,
So true.
like, there are tools out there. You can take advice, you can take therapy, right? And those are the things. But I appreciate you being vulnerable and being honest about this, because I think that's a lot of the hardships that a lot of our couples find when they become parents is, where can we find the balance of us, or and that's also the part of mourning, is like, you are mourning the us that used to be before a child, and so now it's like, how do you give rebirth to this new us, is the question, right? And
Right.
the nuances behind that, like, how do you still apply certain things that you used to do, or do they change, or do they stay the same, right? And so I'm really excited for you and Jess to kind of just explore that season and what it's
Totally.
going to look like for you guys, as you guys
Yeah.
continue to explore what marriage looks like in the season of parenting, right? So yeah.
Yeah. I almost think like too, just like even going to this idea of balance
Mm,
might just be like, oh my gosh, like all of it's going to Harvey. Where's the balance? And maybe our reality is like it's not a balance right now. It might be more this like the realness is like a lot of our time is going to Harvey. And like that's okay. I think what we don't want to do is saying like that's it. There's no other room for each other. And I think if we get too like comfortable with that idea, I fear for like the marriages out there that just get stuck to like all of our time and all of our energy and all of our intimacy, it all goes to our baby. Like it just goes there. And sorry about us, like
mm,
good luck. But I think like our reality right now is like it's not a 50-50. Like 50% of the time is just me and Jess and 50% of the time is with our son. It's like sometimes it could feel like 70-30 or 80-20, and those are our realities right now. But we can't forget about like the 30, or we can't forget about the 20. Like we still need to focus and and give our all to that, and not just be like, well, we're just in a season that's just all about our son. Like it feels like that, but it can't you can't forget about your spouse.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. You think anything you want to ask him regarding, like, especially from a male's perspective, like, I don't know.
Um, well, I mean, it's about kids, so obviously we don't have
Well, you
much
can just,
insight.
yeah.
But I don't know. No, my one thing that I've noticed is a lot of people or a lot of families kind of they go into this mindset of like it's all about the kids, like what you were just talking about, and then the spouse or the marriage aspect of a family gets forgotten or gets tucked away in the back. Being that you are a brand new father and your wife is a brand new mother, how do you feel that you can navigate, or what are, I don't know, some ideas that you and your spouse can go about where you could be the exception in that category, where you won't find yourself years from now where you're like, yeah, you got a family, you're good, but it's like, the only thing that turned out well was your relationship with your kid, but then it's like, what about your marriage?
Yeah. So I think if anything, like, what are some?
if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like I think if anything,
No,
like what are some? Or have you guys even had a conversation with Jess of what does it look like? And I get it. It's encompassing, and I want to remind ourselves, and I want to remind our listeners that you did say like Harvey has become like it's all consuming at the moment. But as yeah, I think Danny asks a really good question of like, do you have an idea what would you love to see in the near future come out of you and Jess? I think.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And Danny, I totally understood what you're saying, so thank
Oh,
you.
sorry. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I think that um, Jess and I are having these conversations, and I think that we need to be having more of these conversations, or at least circling back on them on a regular basis on what we're gonna do to create these moments of connection, these moments of intimacy with one another as we continue on. We've done this for 8 months. Some things have worked, some things have not worked, but like addressing them, naming them. I think all of those things point to us not being like the parents that forget about us and only focus on our child. It's having these hard conversations and saying like, "Hey, this is our reality and I want more. Like this is for right now, but I want better for us." And I think it's just being honest with that and communicating that that's gonna be those, like, really pivotal moments to create change and
Mhm.
not just get stuck in this one, like, "Oh, we're these kind of parents, and this is just our lifestyle, and good luck to us, and good luck to our marriage." But it's creating opportunity to talk and to have these, like, "What do you what would you like to see more out of me?"
Mm.
And then kind of sharing back and forth, and then circling back, not just saying, "Okay, cool, great chat, I'll talk to you in a month," but like, let's keep talking about this. How do we actually create a tangible step in order for us to see what you just said and what I just said become a reality for us?
Mm.
And I think Jess and I, we're still navigating that stuff. We're still trying to name the tangibles. We're still trying to name the like, here's what I want, um, because we are caught in this like the all consuming nature of raising a child as first time parents, you know. Um, but I think it's better to be willing to have a conversation, or at least creating like on your calendar, like, hey, let's talk about it this day on this week, and let's drink wine and have a nice dinner doing it or something like that. But being intentional is really important to have those conversations.
Yeah. I
Nice.
do
Yeah.
want to. I do want to ask, alluding to being a male, right? A male's perspective and whatnot. Like, how have you seen yourself as a man change? Like, as you see, also us, as also you have a son and also become a husband and like become a dad. And how have you seen yourself? And I know I'm throwing you a curveball here, but like, how have
Yeah.
you seen yourself,
Hmm.
become this different man? How do you
Hmm.
are you morphing into a different man? Like, what are some of the like discoveries, I guess, in this
Who
new
is Brandon Wong
now?
Yeah.
2023 with a child following him around?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I know that I'm the best, period. Just kidding. It's funny because like on the Enneagram, I'm the two on the Enneagram. I'm the
Here.
helper. I want to be needed. I want it to be. I want to do things, and I don't know. It just feels like being a dad. I get to use all my gifts. I get to use all my talents, and
Wow.
I get to fulfill that. So I feel fulfilled. Maybe too fulfilled, like overly fulfilled, like maybe like ease up a little bit, kid. Like I'm doing my job as much as I can. Yeah, so I don't know if like I've kind of seen myself um differently as a man. I've always kind of had this really interesting like view of myself in a male role figure anyways, just because I'm I'm a little bit more of the emotional driven, heart driven type of person. So I think that that's always been who I am, and that's my natural disposition. And I think becoming a father has only enhanced that. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That's awesome. I'm a two. Danny's a six. So six, yeah. So it's like yeah. That's really.
House is
I
burning down. It's
Oh
okay.
my.
I'm the guy that house is burning, car caught on fire, and then I'll be like, hey, at least we don't have monthly payments anymore.
security.
That's
That's
we don't have a
hilarious.
roof over our heads. We're homeless. Hey, no more payments. No more money to the man.
No, but
We
yeah,
need people like you.
That's me. That's me.
yeah. No,
Yeah, we
I appreciate you sharing that. And then Brendan, before we end, I do want to ask you, like, what are some encouragements you want to give to those who are listening today who are parents or considering being a parent, especially for our young or couples who are engaged as they're getting ready to parenting and parenthood? Like, I hope whoever's listening, I hope you guys are not scared by what Brendan is saying. If anything,
Yeah.
Brendan, like, how can you inspire these couples and how can you motivate these couples and to look forward to parenting, and whatnot?
totally. Yeah, I kind of want to leave for those that are listening right now. I just want to leave you with a couple of like tips and encouragements. First one is don't ever feel like you should be doing this alone.
Mm,
Sometimes like you get this idea that when you become a parent or you're thinking about being a parent, it's like you have to be this professional that knows how to like comfort a kid or soothe a kid or whatever that is. I want you to get that lie out of your head and just embrace this idea that there is a community of people in your life that can raise your child with you. You can find support emotionally. You can literally like have people just integrated into your life so that you are not parenting alone. I love our community in Santa Barbara. And we've definitely relied heavily on our friends, on our church family, on our family. There's like so much, but I think the idea that you need to be just like rock solid as a parent before you become a parent, or like have every single thing nailed down in your head that like, oh, this is how to be a good parent. um, I just want you to like let go of all of that pressure and just embrace people helping you do this. Jess and I have really been very fortunate of that. So like one, you're not alone. And if you feel alone, please like reach out. I would love to, I don't know, support you through like a phone call, through a Zoom, through anything. Just reach out. And also another thing that I think I want to kind of just like set as an encouragement is grace-filled approach to your marriage, to how you treat yourself, to how you treat your child is the best approach. It just doesn't fail. When you have grace in your life, it does not fail ever
love
because it opens up just really good opportunities to just take the pressure off of you, take the pressure off your spouse, take the pressure off of your kid to be things that they're not supposed to be at that current moment. It just allows for God to kind of like enter in and just reveal to you the humanity, the both the wonderful and also the broken at the same time. And that's what grace does. It's just this continual effect of just like we're all in this together and it's okay as it is. Grace-filled approach. Um, the last thing, if you're a parent out there, actually this is actually great if you're like in a relationship, dating, married, or a parent, whatever category you find yourself in, or even like with a friend. I learned this really wonderful approach from Brene Brown, where she kind of does this thing with your significant other, friend, whoever that is, just to do a check-in, saying like, at this current moment, let's both share what we can give to the situation right now. For example, Jess and I could do this for our child. After a long day of work for Jess, she comes home and I'm like, I had a long day too. We're both maxed. Um, the the scenario or the thing that you do is you say, at what percentage do you have to give at this current moment?
it.
So I could say I can give 30% right now. I had a terrible day. And Jess says, okay, I've I've got 60% in me because I actually had a really productive day and I'm feeling really energized. it doesn't have to add up to 100, but just the idea of knowing where each other are at in percentages can really help your significant other, your friend, whoever that is that you're talking to, in on how you're doing. Oh, Brandon's at a 30%. Geez, that's way less than me. It kind of allows for you to be empathetic or at least practice empathy in that moment. So if my wife were to come back today and she's like, I'm at zero, I've got nothing, I'm almost negative. Me even having 10%, if I say that, allows for me to still be like, I've got you. Um, these are really great ways to kind of just see where people are at. And if you guys are both at zero, start praying, because that's just a really good moment just to be like, okay, we've got nothing.
Yeah.
And but all of it is just this wonderful, it all points to just having grace towards one another, but it takes that effort to ask, or to go there. It's hard sometimes because we just want things to be the way that we want it to be. But when we do the hard work, we find out that humans are humans and we need each other, we need grace, we need to check in. Yeah. Those are my kind of my tips on parenting, life, humanity, all of it.
Honestly, thank
It's
you.
good stuff.
It was really good stuff.
Yeah.
That's a great way to end. I think,
Yeah.
you left us with so much to think about. And I love the last point. I mean, Brene Brown's gold. For anyone who is listening, if you've never, ever come upon Brene Brown, her books, gold. Her podcast, gold. Her YouTube videos, gold. So just Google Brene Brown. And
Oh
it's
my
a
gosh, yes.
empathy, and she made me realize marriage is really not a 50-50 percent. Like we use that a lot. It's not 50-50. In fact, it is like whatever percentage you are giving that day, right? So it's like I love that because it's the empathy part of marriage that we get to practice, and the grace that we get to practice in marriage. So Brandon, thank you so much. Honestly, like we really appreciate you sharing your heart, and thank you for even creating space to share with us, your story and being vulnerable.
Mm.
And we really, really appreciate you. And honestly, thank Jess for us too. Just, thank her for, just even being open to the fact that you're also sharing on a podcast and whatnot. And we want to, bless your family. And we just say thank you, honestly, from the bottom of our hearts. So thanks, Brandon. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Tell your son we're grateful and shake his hand for us.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I'm truly honored and blessed to be a part of this.
Awesome. All right, Brandon. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Take care.
Hey guys, thank you so much again for listening to the episode and for tuning in to the podcast. Again, I hope that the episodes and the podcast are encouraging. I hope that it brings you guys new light, new perspective, a new approach to marriages, to relationships. We hope that it gives you guys the right tools to be able to move forward and how it fits best for you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or you want more details, just go ahead and follow us on Instagram at our Instagram handle, which is Danny and Jenny, or email us at contact@dannyandjenny.com. We look forward to
hearing from you.
Yeah, and to the next episode.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care.
Adios.